Alright folks, just want to make a video for any of the few users that are probably left that use the versions V1 and V2 of ECMLink. It's not real difficult. There's not really a lot of information out there though, so I figured I'd throw this video out there for you guys. Relatively, it's very simple. Not a whole lot to it. Still log all the same values that you would in V3, and the only tab you have is ECU config. You know, there might be some updates as far as what you would see as far as the program, as far as firmware and software. Those don't really apply to V1 and V2. Anything you would use there, you use the same program that you would use for V3 to operate V1 and V2. If you're having to download it, if that's what you have, if you buy an old version and trying to get the software on your computer. For example, if you find an ECU that has V1 or V2 and you're trying to get it, you still download what's used for V3, but you're just using it to operate this version here. So, but anyway, real quick, what I'll do, we'll just go on over here. This is, very simple. These are the only tabs you have. I can't remember if this is, if they all had this or if this is offering a few more tabs on the older version or newer version, whatever the case. But anyway, we'll start off with the RPM. This is basically all we have here. This basically looks about the same as what you have with V3. Our fuel tab, we'll go down here. Basically the same except for the updated version with V3 and the firmware upgrades. You have a few more tabs down here which you don't have in this particular version. You don't have fuel cut. You can't do individual dead time for the injectors and so on. Other than that, everything is the same. Basically, all you're using in V1 and V2 to make any adjustments is the fuel sliders, and these are basically all used for open loop. These aren't used for closed loop. Even though, I know the RPMs go down very low here. Pretty much you're not really going to be even using these. More than likely you'll just keep them zeroed out until you get to the upper end. And then we've got the MAF comp sliders, and if you've seen the V3 version, you have a whole lot more inputs that you can use as far as adjustment values. You've got very select few here that you get to use to dial it in. Problem with V1 and V2, you don't have a fuel table like you would with V3. Basically, you're having to move the sliders down a certain percentage and up a certain percentage to either add or remove fuel. Problem is that you're not really 100% sure what your target value is, so that makes it a little bit difficult to dial things in, as opposed to V3 where you can put a table in there, you can see the exact numbers that you're trying to target. You don't have that luxury here, but still relatively simple. You just add or subtract from the fuel sliders of what you want. The other thing before I move on, the other thing here, this is the same as V3 as far as, if you're familiar with these sliders, trying to use it with V3, it carries over the same way. If you don't feel comfortable using the sliders, or I'm sorry, not the sliders, the fuel tables or the timing tables in V3, you can use these just like you would in this program. You would use in V3 as well if you opted to not use those fuel and timing table that you would have in V3. So timing tables or timing sliders, basically the same as you would have in V3. Again, just no tables that you actually get to put the values in. Raising timing, lowering timing, however many degrees as far as that's concerned. MAF comp, of course, I just discussed that one. Basically up or down. Again, this is, very few adjustments as far as that's concerned. You probably want to look at my MAF comp slider video if you're trying to figure out how to use this if you're not familiar with it. Still have the option for MAF clamp if you had a map sensor where you're using speed density above that value with the mass airflow sensor, so that's still the same. Our ALS or NOC, just the same as V3. We've got a fuel pressure solenoid control if you're using nitrous solenoids and so on, but you don't have the EGR function. You only have this one here. Dash values, or the dash tab, same as V3. Miscellaneous tab, you don't have all the, as you don't have the individual injectors where you can test those to disable them to see if you're finding a miss. Still relatively about the same. You don't have as many options up here. You're missing a lot of those as far as that's concerned, but still relatively simple. DTCs are basically your any codes that you're looking for. This particular individual, I just got this log off of the ECMLink forums. I just pulled it up, and this is just want to have this individual, whoever it was, disabled all there. So here you're not going to see any of these values if you did have a check engine light. You're ignoring basically all of these. So this particular individual, if you did have a problem with closed loop or a misfire, things of that nature, they're not going to know about it because they unchecked every single one of them. And then the ECU input tabs, see there's a whole lot less here as well, as far as what you're programming here as well. So that's the other thing also. One thing I want to make mention of is that one thing that is kind of a pain if you're using wideband factor and you're trying to look at your target value. The thing you have to keep in mind, even though this program I'm using to record this particular video, it doesn't show the screen. If I pop it up, you won't be able to see it, but you can double click wideband factor here. I believe you can do the same for the wideband. I can't remember which one, but if you double click on this particular value, it'll pull up a box. You can't see it. I can right now, but you can enter things like your injector size and your dead time, fuel pressure, and so on. I'll take a screenshot of this if anybody's curious to what it is. I mean, you should be able to see it. But if for some reason you're just curious about it, feel free to shoot me a message on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to send you the screenshot of what it is that I'm looking at. But basically the value that you have for the injectors that you have in this particular area, and I've got the box up right now, you can't see it, but I'm closing it. But basically you want to make sure if you change your injector size when you go to your fuel tab and you're putting in your values, when you click calculate, put your injector size in, you want to do the same if you double click here and put the same size injectors there. Otherwise, anything with wideband factor here is going to be off. So you're thinking you're looking at a certain air fuel ratio estimate. Those aren't going to match because the injector sizes are different in both boxes. That's the one thing I did not like about the V1 or V2 as far as that's concerned. And when tuning a car, that would throw things off. Either way you're going about it, you're basically going to be looking at your actual wideband value. That's basically what you're looking at, but you want to make sure if you're targeting a certain value that you're hitting that, and that will mess you up as far as tuning it when the injector sizes don't match in both boxes. And a lot of people don't realize that once you go change the value in your fuel tab, you also need to change it in the other to get those values to match as far as that's concerned. So that is my one huge tip that I am going to stress, that it is something you've got to have in the back of your mind to remember there as far as the injector size that you're going to put in, and that they have to match in both places. Otherwise, everything will be thrown off. I'll just scroll over here as far as that's concerned this is a wide open throttle section. This particular individual, they have it pretty spot on as far as getting them to match the injector size. The injector size actually doesn't match in the boxes that he has, but it's not really far off, so it's really actually pretty close because the numbers are so close together. But overall, you want to make sure they do match. Either way, V1, V2, it'll get the job done, but there's just a whole lot of features that you're just going to be lacking as far as that's concerned. So just things to keep in mind. So if you are looking to upgrade, there's a whole lot more features with V3 that you can use, and you don't even have to use all those features if you're not familiar with it. You can use all the same values or tabs that are here with V3 and leaving everything else alone. So if you're familiar with this program and you're not familiar with V3, you can leave the ones alone that you're not familiar with in V3 and just mess with these particular values here that you are familiar with until you start to learn the other program. But other than that, it's very, very simple, not hard to use at all. You just have to know how to make adjustments with your fuel sliders and MAF comp sliders as well to get the desired air fuel ratio that you want. And then timing is very simple. You get knock or you're trying to remove that timing, just you want to take a degree out, you move it down however much of an adjustment you're trying to make as far as that's concerned to each particular slider, or you're seeing that knock, or you're just trying to remove it or add it for more power, so long as you're able to get away with that. So, but other than that, it's really all I have for V1 and V3. That basically covers this whole program. So, but if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm familiar with it. I don't mind helping anyone out if you got any questions on it. But other than that, y'all have a good one. Until next time. All right, bye.